Hey, thanks for joining me for PerkStream today. Sunday is Easter Sunday, and we're going to have a great celebration of the resurrection. But my mind went someplace else this week, and partly because the resurrection still has to go through the cross, and going through the cross means talking about death. Tim Keller was the pastor of Redeemer Church in New York City, and he passed away this last year. He died. And before he died, he preached a sermon on the resurrection where he wanted to answer the question, where is God in all this mess? Because death brings up a lot of mess for us. It brings up a lot of emotion and makes us ask the question, well, why didn't God do this? Or where was God when that was happening? And we ask these questions sometimes thinking that God is either too distant or he's like so involved that he made everything happen. And so Tim preached this sermon based on what Peter preached in Acts chapter 2. And let me read what Acts chapter 2 says. It says, he said, Jesus of Nazareth was a man accredited by God to you by miracles, wonders, and signs, which God did among you through him, as you yourself know. This man was handed over to you by God's deliberate plan and foreknowledge, and you, with the help of wicked men, put him to death by nailing him to the cross. But God raised him up from the dead, freeing him from the agony of death, because it was impossible for death to keep its hold on him. And what Tim noticed in this preaching of the good news is this, that there was a problem, and that is we have sin. There was a plan to deal with it that God had, and he made that plan known in Jesus. He did it through his teaching and through his signs and wonders, but then he also did it through this act of death, this crucifying on the cross, which made possible our forgiveness and our salvation and our hope. But the other side of it is that Jesus didn't just conquer sin, he conquered death. And Tim put it this way, that death before Jesus was like an executioner. You lived, you died, you went into the ground, and it was like we just lived with this death sentence of not knowing what would happen next. But in Jesus, and with those who put their faith in Jesus, death moves from being an executioner to a gardener who is simply, and if you will, our bodies go into the ground and death becomes the gardener waiting for new life to come. Because what does Jesus promise? In Christ, God has promised that we will rise again. So there was a plan and there was a power broken. Death does not have the final say in our life. And that is all because we have a champion, Jesus Christ, who went through death. He was the champion we needed, who preceded us in death and was raised to life by God. So that's the short form version of Tim's sermon. But what really gives me hope in this and why it was good, if you will, for me to remember this is because as we encounter death, and our congregation has encountered death 3 times in the last 5 months with 3 ladies passing away. And Cheryl's and my life have been touched by death as a good friend of ours in California passed away at a young age. And we look at this and we grieve and we hurt and we realize that it just brings up all these questions about where is God in all this? And we can be kind of like, well, God's around and God's doing something. We can kind of become a little numb to it. But in death, we need to remember that there is a victory. There's a victory that's coming, and death doesn't get the final word. And the resurrection that we're going to celebrate this Sunday is about how Jesus got the final word, how God our Father got the final word. And so come Sunday ready to celebrate. And I encourage you to come Good Friday and be part of remembering that it was his death that opened the door to new life, because through his death, we are forgiven and we are reconciled to God. But then come Sunday, we get to have this awesome opportunity of celebrating the risen Lord, knowing that he has broken the power of death. So we get to say on Sunday, hey, grave, where is your sting? Death, where is your victory? Praise be to God, Jesus is alive. So I hope that that is an encouragement to you today. And I also pray that as we celebrate together, you will have that hope well up inside you. Just want you to be aware that PerkStream is going to take a hiatus for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to be on vacation one of those weeks, and we're going to be trying to get some new content together after that. That will be an encouragement to you. So, a couple weeks off here as we look to the future and look to what God may be telling us in those times to come. God bless you and have a great week. Have a great Easter Sunday. Looking forward to seeing you there. And remember, He is risen.